Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was in Avatar. The world could not maintain the peace that Naruto fought for in Jiraiya's memory. With a heavy heart, he forsakes his time and seals himself away in hopes of a peaceful future. What happens when a girl who wishes to express herself finds the sealed body of the hero of the flame, unleashes him, and learns from him? What will the future hold for the world? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 3, Shinobi Way Year 1. The following morning found Naruto in a forest clearing less than a mile out of the capital city of the Fire Nation. He sat in a lotus position and meditated while waiting for his new student to arrive. It didn't surprise him in the slightest when Mai asked to learn from him, especially after the display he gave Ozai and the spectators. During his meditation, he felt the energies of three individuals heading toward him. Mai's reason was obvious, but the feeling of Azula and Ty Lee coming slightly confused him. He knew that he only extended the courtesy of teaching to Mai alone, so he didn't have much of an idea as to why the other two were coming. However, while not knowing why, he decided not to waste this opportunity to figure out why Azula's energy felt so familiar to him. Opening his eyes, he lifted the hair away from his right eye, revealing a fully mature Sharingan to the world. While using its chakra detection abilities, he thought back as to how he acquired the eye. Flashback to Naruto's 10th year of self-exile. The blonde Jinchuriki sat on the head of the Yondaime, gazing out to the destroyed village. He did this every day after properly burying the bodies of his loved ones, and only moved when he felt the need to train, eat, or walk through the village ruins. Over the years, he had scavenged scrolls from the various clans of Konoha, and stored them all in a scroll that he kept hidden in a seal on the top of his left hand. The history of the people of Konoha would die with its last citizen, him. During his gazing, he felt the energies of a group of Iwa Nin heading towards the destroyed village gates. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto pulled out a single kunai and disappeared in a flash of lightning before reappearing in the center of the village. He kept his narrowed gaze on the approaching shinobi, and thought to himself, if they think they'll find any secrets in this place, then they are dead wrong. The group of Iwa shinobi totaled at about 50 members, with all of them in groups of 10. The leader of them noticed Naruto and grinned maliciously. Well boys, look at what we have here. A relic from a once powerful village. Ha! What are you doing here, Namikaze scum? Naruto's response was to chuck the kunai in his hand at incredible speed. The knife flew at the man while covered in Raitun chakra, making him tense before using Kawarimi to avoid taking the hit. Naruto glared at them and ground out, this village has suffered enough for one lifetime. Leave now, or join the everlasting calm of the dead. The shinobi nearly chuckled at Naruto's warning before they all flew through hand seals, and called out, Doton Doryuden, Earth Dragon. From the ground, 50 dragons made of jagged rocks rose up and flew at the blonde shinobi. Naruto gave them a blank look before pouring chakra into his right pointer finger. In midair, he began to form the kanji for earth and void before he formed a circle around the symbol. The floating seal pulsed brown as Naruto muttered, Fuinjutsu, Tsuchi Fuji Hoho, Earth Sealing Method. The many dragons were met with a brown barrier that absorbed their power, causing them to disappear, and the Iwa shinobi to gape in shock. Naruto glared at them with slit red eyes. My turn. In a blur of black and red, the last Uzumaki tore through 20 of the shinobi, and sliced off each of their left arms. The men cried out in shock and agony while clutching their bloody stumps. However, one of them managed to swing a kunai at the blonde. When Naruto reappeared behind the Iwa Nin, he held his right hand up to his bloody eye and snarled in pain and anger. Damn it! I got careless and it cost me. He raged in his mind while Kyuubi tried to do damage control. To the fox's shock, its Yuki was drastically weakened due to a foreign substance in Naruto's wound. Kit, there was something on that kunai that's blocking me from completely healing it. What? What the hell could have he started before he remembered that Orochimaru had come up with a serum that screwed with a Jinchuriki's healing. He growled in rage and asked his tenant, "Damn that fucking snake to hell. Is there any way to repair it?" "Not immediately. Unless..." The great fox mused to itself. "Unless what, Kurama?" Naruto pressed as he hid behind some rubble since the Iwa Nin grew confident at the blow Naruto had received. "It's a stretch, but I want you to call out that Raven Itachi had you swallow." Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as he asked, "I still have that thing in me? I thought it flew off after it used the Kotoama Tsukumi, distinguished heavenly gods." "Yes, you still have it. Now, create a Kage Bunshin to pluck the eye out of the raven, along with your slashed eye." Naruto complied and had a Kage Bunshin form, while focusing his chakra to find a source reminiscent of Itachi's. When he found it, he used his to pull it out, causing a raven with Shursui Uchiha Sharingan to wriggle out of his mouth. "Okami-sama, I forgot how disgusting that was." "Alright, all that's left is to have your clone switch out the eyes, and I'll use my Yuki to handle the rest." The next thing the Iwa Nin heard was a cry of immense pain coming from one of the wrecked buildings. "He's over there!" yelled one as he launched many boulders towards the rubble. When the rubble got demolished by the boulders, the Iwa Nin smirked before they heard heavy breathing. They all turned to see Naruto, who was leaning on another piece of rubble for support and had blood dripping from the right side of his face. They all chuckled at his beaten look before he raised his head and glared at them with his blue and red eyes. Staring at them, inside of a scarred eye socket, was a fully mature Sharingan. How is that possible? How the fuck does he have a damn Sharingan? Sharingan? One of them asked in fear. From Naruto's mindscape, the Kyuubi told the blonde, "Kit, you should know that my Yuki changed the genetic structure of the eye. Before you ask, that means that Shursue's Kotoama Tsukumi has been replaced with a different Uchiha power." "What exactly was it replaced with? And what will happen if I try Manjikyu?" "Even I don't know the answers to those questions." "You'll have to see for yourself, Kit." Naruto mentally nodded before he focused chakra into his Sharingan. His eye seemed to become completely red before his Manjikyu revealed itself to the Iwa shinobi. The scara of the right eye became blood red, his pupil became pitch black, and the once black Tomo turned crimson. "Alright, let's see what happens," he mused to himself before he was met with a few more Doryuden from the intruders. Something from the eye called out to his mind and he felt his body distort before the many earth dragons phased right through him, as if he wasn't even there too. Naruto released the distorted feeling before he glared murderously at the frightened Iwa shinobi. "Get the fuck out of my birth home!" he raged before he charged. Present time. Naruto shook his head from the memories and focused on Azula's energy. He felt a dark chakra from her, although it was civilian-sized at the most. The feeling came from only one group of people that Naruto would never forget. "Uchiha," he murmured as the girls entered the clearing. Luckily, they didn't hear him, so he addressed Mai. "I thought that I was only teaching you?" Mai was about to answer, but Azula cut her off. "And just why exactly does Mai alone get the honor of being taught by you?" Naruto narrowed his visible eye at her and retorted, "I chose Mai, therefore she alone will be taught by me. A girl like you, who has many teachers and tutors at her beck and call, does not need my guidance." Azula scowled at him while Ty Lee nervously asked, "Well, what about me?" Naruto gave her a calculative glance before answering, "I'll give you a few exercises to help you better defend yourself, but don't expect anything else from me. Do you understand?" The brunette nodded before Naruto took out a random scroll and tossed it to her. When she opened it, she noticed that it was about the human body and the many different pressure points that could either help or harm it. That scroll should help you know where exactly to strike your opponents to take them out swiftly and without killing them. Actually, training your body to be able to strike efficiently will be up to you, Ty Lee, Naruto explained to her. Ty Lee squealed in gratitude and crashed into the blonde to hug him. Due to his larger stature and honed reflexes, he remained standing with no problem. The girl then went to a nearby tree to study her scroll. Azula rounded on the blonde, "I don't understand why you refuse to teach me. I already answered you, you already have plenty of people to help you. My teachings would be wasted on you anyway, since your chakra levels are far too low for me to even think of doing so." Mai chose this moment to ask, "What's chakra?" He turned to her and answered, "It's the energy within all things that allows them to call upon incredible power, depending on how much a person has. It's also as important as blood or oxygen, since a person without chakra is dead." Why have I never felt it? The answer is because you never consciously drew upon it. You've been living on the bare minimum, so you never felt anything new. When we actually tap into your chakra for the first time, then you'll feel it. He then gazed at Mai with his Sharingan to see her chakra levels, causing her eyes to widen in surprise. "I thought I only imagined that I. But why does he have different eyes?" "Well, Mai, it appears that you have chakra levels of a high genin, surprising for one who hasn't accessed their chakra yet." "Ooh. What about my levels?" Ty Lee called out. Naruto turned his gaze to her and shook his head. "Unfortunately, you barely have low genin reserves, Ty Lee. I can't help you access your chakra any more than giving you a small burst of energy that will immediately have you exhausted to the point of needed bed rest." The girl pouted at his response but waved it off in favor of the scroll in her hands. Azula then asked, "What would happen if I tapped into this chakra you're talking about?" "You'd die from chakra exhaustion, plain and simple. Your reserves are too low to use except for bare minimum use to survive. I can't teach you even if I wanted to, Azula." Azula scowled at that before leaving in a huff. Naruto sighed in slight relief along with Mai, causing them to look at one another in confusion and Ty Lee to giggle. When they turned to her, she commented, "Wow, you guys are already acting like teacher and student." Naruto shook his head in amusement while Mai muttered, "Troublesome." "Now Mai, I want you to sit in a meditative position like I am," Naruto said to his student. Mai complied and sat in a lotus position like the blonde man in front of her. "Okay, I'm guessing you want me to clear my mind or something like that." Not exactly. I want you to calm yourself, but I also want you to try and sense your inner chakra. It should feel like a hidden well of energy waiting to burst out. When you feel it, I want you to pull it out and spread it throughout your body. Understand?" She nodded before closing her eyes and began to breathe slowly. Naruto was helping her by watching her chakra levels with the Uchiha Dojutsu, while Ty Lee watched on in anticipation. After what felt like forever to the Nara descendant, Mai sighed and said, "I can't feel anything." Naruto closed his eyes and thought before deciding that her chakra just needed a jumpstart. So, he poured chakra into his thumbs and beckoned her to him. When she was standing in front of him, he placed his left thumb on her forehead while his right touched her navel. These were the two main chakra points of the body, the mind and the core respectively. He then willed his chakra into her system in search of her own. What he didn't count on was his chakra affecting her reserve levels, pushing them from high genin levels to mid-chunin. Kurama noticed though, but remained silent for the moment. When his chakra found hers, he pulled it out of her core and spread it throughout her body. To Mai, it felt like her body had just received the biggest surge of power she had ever felt. She felt amazing, powerful, and unbeatable. That is until Naruto flicked her on her forehead, causing her concentration to break and her chakra to recede back into her. "Why'd you do that?" she asked with narrowed eyes, only to meet his stern gaze. "If I had allowed you to continue, your chakra would have left your body completely, resulting in death." At her shocked look, he continued, "The first thing we will work on, now that you've unlocked your chakra, will be control." He then looked to the sun resting high in the sky and said, "We'll continue later today. For now, go eat something and rest. That should restore your reserves by enough to start our first lesson." Mai nodded before she and Ty Lee left for the town. Once they were gone, Kyuubi commented, "I hope you realize that you actually raised her reserves when you did that little trick of yours?" "Yeah, I didn't notice immediately, but I felt it before I stopped her from accidentally killing herself." I didn't think my chakra would affect hers in that way though. We'll have to make sure her control is at least at water walking levels before I teach her any jutsu. What exactly will you teach her, Kit? I plan to make her my apprentice in the ways of the Gamma arts. That means she'll sign the contract when I feel she's ready. What about the Sannin arts? Will you teach her that as well? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, I'm going to spend this break to talk to Kichi. I haven't seen him for thousands of years. Ha! How does it feel to be an old man? The fox asked with a smirk. Naruto smirked back and retorted, I may be old, but at least I still look young. He then flew through hand seals and used the Gyaku Kuchiyos, reverse summoning, to transport himself to MT Mayaboku. Mayaboku. Naruto found himself in the densely forested home of the Gamma clan and smiled at the memories he had of this place. It's like nothing's changed since I was last here. Except that Kichi is now the Grand Sannin of the clan. Better not keep him waiting since I'm sure he sensed my arrival. The blonde shinobi trekked through the dense forest and made his way to the toad's village. When he stepped through the dense fauna, many toads turned their gazes to him and most widened their eyes in surprise at how a human found this place. A small few were able to see the whisker markings and murmured, Naruto-sama. The whispers caused others to realize just who this intruder was. Suddenly, a loud boom was heard followed by an intense tremor signifying the arrival of Gamashun. He turned to the blonde and greeted, Welcome back to Mayaboku after so long, Naruto-sama. Naruto nodded in greeting and replied, It's good to see this place again. I actually came here to speak to Kichi. Can you take me to him? Of course, this way, Naruto-sama, Shun answered before leading the Uzumaki to a large courtyard that had a large crystal ball and an ancient-looking toad. The toad was orange and blue with many wrinkles and wheezing breaths. He turned his head towards Naruto's general direction, presenting foggy eyes to him. So, Kichi's become blind over the years, same as the Grand Sannin of my time. Naruto then smiled to Kichi and stated, It's been a long time, hasn't it, Kichi? Nii-san? Is that really you? Kichi asked in between wheezed breaths. Yeah, Kichi, it's me, Naruto. I'm glad to see you again after so long, Naruto commented while embracing the blind toad. I assume that everyone else is. Yes. They're all dead. I was given the title of Grand Sannin by Toussaint before he passed on. Although Fukusaka-sama left something for you in his will, Nii-san. He did? Asked a surprised blonde. I'm sorry to hear that I wasn't there for the service and about everyone else. After a small silence in short memory of the deceased toads, Naruto asked, So what exactly did Fukusaka-sama leave me? Kichi's answer was to press his left forepaw to the ground next to him, resulting in a small plume of smoke. Once it cleared, an old-looking staff was seen in Kichi's paw. He left you his Senjutsu staff. You remember, the one that knocked nature chakra out of someone if they had too much? Yeah, I remember. Naruto said in a whisper as he took the staff. He felt nature chakra flowing freely through it and remembered the times when the old toad used it on him. It brought a melancholic smile to his face as he thought of all the bumps he received throughout his Senjutsu training. So, did he want me to do something with this, Kichi? Kichi? Yes, he did. He wanted you to pass on the ways of the Gamma Sannin to this generation. Aside from me, you are the last Sannin of the Gamma clan. Not only that, but I think my time has finally come. Naruto turned to his oldest friend with wide eyes. Kichi, you can't possibly mean that. We just saw each other again after so long, and now you're about to die? You can't die. The old toad gave Naruto a sad smile. Yes. I am about to die. However, I'm glad that I was able to see you one last time, Nii-san. Be sure to honor Fukusaka-sama's last wish. He then gave one long, final wheeze for air before whispering, Goodbye, Nii-san. The Grand Sannin then bowed his head forward and became still. Naruto felt his eyes water and proudly let the tears free in memory of his dead friend. Many other toads that had come to see the meeting between the two were also in tears at the loss of their oldest clan member. Kichi. I promise that I will keep the Gamma arts alive, for you and for all members of the Gamma clan. Naruto then turned to the other toads and raised his right fist over his heart, a gesture that they readily returned. Gamma-shun spoke up, "We are proud to have you as our Grand Sannin, Naruto-sama." The Uzumaki nodded and replied, "I promise, to all of you, that I will keep our teachings alive. I have already found my apprentice, and I will make sure that she becomes a Sannin worthy of the Gamma clan name." He then slammed the staff on the ground, causing a flash of green to emit from it. "That is my promise of a lifetime to you all." The toads all smiled to the blonde with determination while a small white and green toad hopped up to him and bowed. "Naruto-sama, please allow me the honor of accompanying you as your familiar toad," she requested. Naruto gave her a small smile and nodded. "Thank you. I have a feeling that I'll need someone like you to assist me. What is your name?" "Name? Gamayuki, Naruto-sama. But you may call me Yuki for short." "Very well, Yuki, hop on my shoulder, and we'll return to the human realm." When she was resting on his shoulder, he turned to the toads and stated, "Remember, the ones who love us never really leave us. Kichi will always be in our hearts so long as we honor his memory, and live how he wanted us to." At their nods, he and Yuki disappeared from the toad realm in a plume of smoke. Forest clearing. When the duo reappeared, they noticed Mai and Ty Lee already waiting for them. Ty Lee was still reading her scroll, while Mai leaned against a tree and watched the clouds drift by. This caused Naruto to sweat drop and think, "Yep, she's definitely a Nara through and through." Mai turned her gaze to her teacher and actually gave a small smile. "Well, I was wondering where you went. Where did you go exactly?" Naruto pointed to Yuki and replied, "The realm of the toads. I picked up my inheritance." He then presented his Sannin staff to her and allowed her to hold it. Strangely to the Kunoichi in training, it felt right in her hands. The aura emitting from it felt empowering and amazing to her. The feeling left when Naruto took it back and sealed it in a storage seal drawn on his right palm. "Now we are going to work on your chakra control. The first thing I want you to do is to try and focus it to certain points, hands, feet, etc." Mai nodded and closed her eyes while feeling for her chakra. She felt it in her core, but moving it around was hard for her. She was then broken out of her concentration by Naruto standing behind her and moving her hands to form a strange gesture. Noticing her confusion, Naruto explained, "This is called a Ram seal. It's beneficial for initial chakra control for beginners. Hold that seal while focusing your chakra and you'll see the difference." He then backed up and watched her get to work. He saw that she had little trouble moving her chakra around while holding the seal, and gave an unnoticeable smile at her progress. Most would have trouble even with the seal, but she seemed to barely have any problems. If she truly isn't having much problem, then she must have decent control already, which is strange for a beginner with low Chunin reserves. Mai liked the feeling of moving her chakra around her coils. It felt incredible to be so in control of something. Then again, she didn't have much control over what happened in her life. It took a lot of convincing to her parents to even let her learn. Even if they knew of Naruto's legendary status, they still felt that being associated with a war veteran wouldn't be best for her. Luckily for Mai, her mother saw how badly she wanted to learn from the Uzumaki, and gave her daughter her blessing. It was worth it in her eyes since she saw Mai give her a bright smile, and a small hug in thanks, two things she rarely saw her daughter do anymore. After spending a few minutes getting a feel for moving her chakra around, Naruto called her over to show her the other 11 hand seals: bird, tiger, boar, rat, dog, dragon, horse, ox, serpent, hare, and monkey. It took the rest of the afternoon to get Mai to perform the seals fluently and at a decent speed. When Naruto dismissed her, she surprised him by smiling at him and saying, "As troublesome as you may be, I want to thank you for doing this for me. By the way, What's the word for teacher in the old language? Teacher instated as sensei, and teaching you is no problem. After all, I did say you'd be my deshi mai. I'm guessing that means student? She asked with a small smirk. Close, it means disciple, he replied with a matching smirk. Well anyway, I'll see you tomorrow, sensei. As Mai left the clearing, Yuki spoke up, your student seems promising, Naruto-sama. Yes she does. By the way, you don't have to call me Sama. Just Naruto is fine with me. Little Yuki stammered a bit at how her summoner seemed so disinterested in his respected title, but she calmed down and replied, if you say so, Naruto. For the following 2 weeks, Mai worked on her control with the help of her sensei, while Ty Lee watched on in curiosity and wonder. After she had gotten a feel for her chakra, Naruto moved Mai on to tree climbing. It surprised the two girls when they saw the Uzumaki walk straight up a tree and stand under a tree branch with only his feet. Obviously, Mai had some trouble with this one, but not as much as Naruto believed she would. She merely kept putting too much chakra into her feet, which forcefully pushed her off the tree. He easily helped her solve the issue since he knew what it was like to use too much chakra at one time. With his advice, Mai was able to steadily progress up the tree, each time getting slightly higher than the previous. After the 2 weeks of tree walking, Naruto moved his student on to physical exercises to increase her strength, stamina, and endurance. He had her run around the clearing, perform push-ups, made her do chin-ups on a low branch, and had her wear Taiju Fuian weight seals during it all. She had the seals on her wrists, ankles, and abdomen. The ones on her wrists and ankles were 10 pounds each while the one on her abdomen was 15. This went on for another 2 weeks. The following 3 months were spent teaching Mai water walking to further increase her chakra control as well as basic weapons training with kunai and shuriken. For her safety, Mai was allowed to keep her weights off during the water walking, and used blunted weapons during her weapons training. It surprised Naruto at how proficient she was with her weapons, especially since she claimed that she'd never used them before. I can't believe how good she is already. Maybe one of Tenten's descendants married a Nara down the line. That would make sense. That Higurashi girl was a terror with those weapons of hers, but she was especially good with bows and arrows. You gonna have Mai learn how to use those? I don't see a reason not to. Tenten would kill me if I didn't have her descendant learn her skills, even if I was already dead. After those months, Mai had mastered water walking and was as skilled as Tenten used to be with kunai and shuriken. She was able to hit targets many yards away, moving and stationary, and score perfect bullseyes on them. The 5th-7th months of training had Naruto teaching Mai how to properly use the kawarimi, henge, and bunshin techniques. Since she was still relatively new to the shinobi arts, seeing the techniques demonstrated to her made her eager to learn, even if Naruto wasn't able to fully demonstrate the regular bunshin to her. Naruto was glad to see how Mai truly was without her emotional barrier up. She reminded him of himself so much that it was both refreshing and scary. Refreshing to see that he was able to help someone that was like him, and scary at how similar they were. The 5th month was spent on kawarimi and learning on when to properly use it and time it. Month 6 was used for henge training. It amazed Mai at how Naruto was able to successfully fool Ty Lee with this as he acted like her. That month was also a fun one for her since she used it to fool so many people around the city, which made Naruto think that he had somehow passed on his old pranking ways to his student. The 7th month was challenging to say the least. Since Naruto was unable to perform a simple bunshin, but knew the hand signs for it, he couldn't properly demonstrate it to her. When she asked why, he replied, "My reserves match that of 3 Kage-level shinobi alone. More chakra equals harder control, but it also makes some techniques impossible for me. The bunshin is merely one of those techniques." Understanding that even her sensei is not above everything, she tried her best with the technique. The first 2 weeks of the 7th month only resulted in pale or dead illusions. Week 3 had them pale still, but none looked dead. It wasn't until the last 3 days of week 4 that she successfully made illusionary clones. While pleased with her progress, Naruto reminded her that Bunshin were not physical, so they didn't make a sound. A trained warrior would be able to notice the difference the real her and her clones on that alone. Months 8 and 9 were spent on reviewing all she had learned. Hand seals, chakra control, physical exercises, the 3 basic jutsu, and weapons training were all reviewed and raised up to almost an art form. Naruto and Kurama were pleased with her progress, and Naruto saw her as an incredible learner. She learned just like he did, through trial and error. The explanations helped her, but having her actually try something and pointing out her mistakes was the best way Naruto saw my learn. Month 10 would have been for training, but something horrible had happened. Fire Nation Palace. The master and student shinobi entered the palace, after being invited by Iroh for some afternoon tea. Naruto still looked the same, but Mai went through an incredible change. Her hair was styled in a single tail that was held by 2 Senbon needles. The needles were extra weapons. She wore black kunoichi sandals that Naruto had ordered for her, dark red hakama pants with a kunai holster on her right side, a black belt that held a weapons pouch for her shuriken and senbon, a long-sleeved mesh shirt under a sleeveless Chinese-style shirt, and a hayate that Naruto made for her. The shirt was black with a crimson fox wrapping its 9 tails from the back around the right side. The hayate was made of a crimson cloth with the kanji 4 kunoichi on the metal plate. When they entered, they saw Iroh talking to Zuko with a worried look on his face. When the retired general noticed them, he beckoned them over. Naruto saw how worried Iroh was and questioned, "What's going on?" Zuko answered, "I spoke out against a Fire Nation general during a war meeting. So, even this time is still at war. Why can't the world ever learn that war brings nothing but pain? Nagato, you'd be ashamed at this." Speaking out of turn during a meeting usually results in the 2 parties, the speaker and the interrupter, engaging one another in an Agni Kai fire duel. Zuko has already accepted the challenge, Iroh explained with a concerned look on his face. "I'm guessing that you know who Zuko is facing, Iroh?" Naruto asked. "What do you mean?" Zuko asked back in confusion. "I'm facing that general, right?" "Zuko," Iroh started with a stern gaze, "you may face him, but I'm not entirely sure. Whoever you face, make sure you stand your ground, or else the shame will be almost impossible to forgive." Zuko hesitantly nodded as Iroh pulled Naruto over to the side, leaving Mai to catch up with her friend. "What is it you wanted to tell me in private?" Naruto questioned. "I have news from my associates. And these associates are. They belong to your old council, the Shiro Renge." Naruto looked surprised at that and stated, "Explain." "I thought that the Shiro Renge dispersed years ago?" "No, they didn't. It still remains a fully operational organization to this day with members in all parts of the world, except the air nomads of course." Naruto nodded at that. While he taught Mai the ways of the shinobi, she told him of the current events of the world and what she knew of bending and benders. He also learned of the near genocide of the air nomads barring the Avatar who went into hiding. "So, what is this news you have?" "Fire Nation colonies are capturing many small villages around the Earth Kingdoms and putting the Earthbender rebels into prisons or work camps. The colonies are expanding and they plan to move on to the Water Tribes soon." Naruto nodded and replied, "I'll be sure to look into it when I can. I may not be the peacekeeper of this time, but I despise slavery with a passion." "Thank you for the information, Iroh." The man nodded before they both returned to their respective charges and headed for the arena. Zuko's Agni Kai was later that afternoon and Naruto wanted to be sure that his and Iroh's suspicions on the teen's opponent were correct. Naruto turned to his student and stated, "Mai, no matter what takes place here, don't look away." She turned to him confused and asked, "Why not?" His eyes glazed over in disappointment as he answered, "Because there are some cruel things in the world that you need to see to truly understand. Still confused, Mai hesitantly nodded and turned her attention to the arena floor where Zuko and a shadowed figure were kneeling with their backs turned to one another. Once they stood and turned to each other, Mai's eyes widened in shock at who Zuko's opponent was. "I knew it. Naruto muttered sadly. The man would choose his pride over his son. He truly has no honor. Mai watched on as Zuko pleaded to Ozai and begged for forgiveness. The Fire Lord would have none of it and told his son to rise and fight. Zuko refused to fight his father and looked to him with tears in his eyes. You will learn respect, and suffering will be your teacher, Ozai stated before burning Zuko on the left side of the prince's face, causing the left eye to look horribly wounded and dead-looking. Mai closed her eyes to hold back the tears as she watched her friend get burned by the one he called father, and Naruto comforted her by holding her close to him. This is how cruel the world can be, Mai. As shinobi, it is our duty to fight for the world's peace, so that events like this won't happen anymore. Mai slowly calmed down and asked, Do you really think we can make any difference, sensei? Naruto gave her a reassuring smile and answered, I believe that, so long as hope remains in the hearts of the people, we can make all the difference in the world. We just have to show them that peace is not a lost dream. My father, sensei, and cousin all fought for peace, as do I. I fight for their dreams, and I'm asking you to do the same. Will you help me show the world that peace is not impossible, Mai? The Nara descendant wiped her eyes and gazed at her teacher determinedly. Yes, I will, sensei. Naruto nodded with a smile and stated, I'm glad to hear that. We still have plenty of training to do for you, and by the time we're done, you'll be a successful kunoichi, I promise you. Chapter 4, Shinobi Way Year 2. Things seem to be getting very tiresome out there, commented the fox as Naruto sat in meditation. It had been a couple weeks since Zuko's fight with his father, and the teen had left the capital city with Iroh after being banished by Ozai. There was a chance he could return though, however, the requirement was the capture of the Avatar. Naruto couldn't help but compare Ozai to his Uchiha ancestor, Fugaku. Actually, when he thought about it more, Ozai was like Fugaku with his extreme expectance for a perfect heir, Azula was like Sasuke with her arrogance and pride, and Zuko was like Itachi with his heart and his reluctance to fight unless it was unavoidable. Indeed, they are. Although, I am glad that Iroh was caring enough to follow his nephew out of the Fire Nation. Plus, Zuko will have plenty of opportunities to get a better hand at controlling his fire bending with Iroh's teachings. While that is true, you can't deny that he has gained a negative aura about him ever since his father marked him as a failure. Naruto sighed at the truth behind the comment and pinched the bridge of his nose in irritation. Yes, the boy had negativity forming in his heart, but can you blame him? We just saw him get burned, disowned, and banished by the one he called father. Fortunately, the negativity seems to be birthed from the want to prove himself to Ozai, much like Sasuke wished to prove himself to his father. I assume that you plan to put a stop to it if his anger gets out of hand? What do you think? One Sasuke incarnate is bad enough with Azula. We don't need a second one. He was brought out of his internal conversation by my walking into the clearing. Morning, sensei, she greeted before sitting in front of him in a lotus position. Good morning. I believe that I have come up with a reasonable schedule for your second year of training. At her patient expression, Naruto continued, the year will be divided into 4 segments. The first will be reviewing what you know and increasing your skills with the basics and simple battle tactics. To do this, I'll have you spar with a clone of mine. Do you really think I'll be able to keep up with you, sensei? Asked the girl with a deadpan stare. No, which is why my clone will not use any jutsu or chakra, only taijutsu. You will be allowed to use whatever you can at your disposal. Now, the second 3-month segment will be focused on teaching you how to use this, he said as he unsealed a small bow and a quiver of arrows. I believe that you'll find this to be a very useful addition to your growing arsenal. Mai slowly took the items from him and gave him a small smile and thanks. So, we'll only focus on archery? Of course not, he replied with a grin. We can't let your other skills dwindle due to neglect, right? She shook her head with a small smirk, and he continued, your archery training will be after some morning exercises. Now, the third segment will be a focus on these. Once again, he unsealed some items and handed them to her. They ended up being two scrolls with a symbol of a circle with a line equally dividing it on them. What are these? Those are my end of the agreement we made. They are the scrolls of the Nara clan's history and their techniques. Simply put, they are your birthright, Mai. Her eyes widened in shock before she stared back down at the scrolls in her hands. Her ancestral history was in the palms of her hands, and it brought a small smile to her face. Thank you for these, Sensei, she said gratefully. You don't need to thank me. It's as I said, they're yours by right. Alright, the final segment of our training will focus on the mission aspect that Shinobi and Kunoichi go through. She tilted her head in confusion and asked, what do you mean by that? He gave a small smirk and answered, what I mean is that we will go on slightly dangerous tasks to have you get a better experience out in the field. We'll go after small rebel groups, everyday bandits, and a few wanted criminals that bounty hunters will be after. Sounds simple enough, right? She nodded and did a few stretches before Naruto sent her off to do her morning exercises. He left a clone with her to keep track of her progress while he went into the town square. There was something that he wanted the blacksmith of the city, and he wanted them to get an early start on it. Making his way there, he noticed that there were a few flyers for some sort of banquet in the governor's honor. Naruto was slightly interested since the governor was Mai's father and wondered if she would have to make an appearance for his sake. As he read the flyer, he sensed Ty Lee's signature heading for his and merely waited for her to arrive. It wasn't even a minute later before Ty Lee called out, "Hey Naruto. What are you reading?" Instead of a verbal reply, Naruto merely pointed to the flyer and allowed the girl to read it. Oh yeah, the banquet. Apparently, Mai's dad is getting an increase in governmental control, and the Fire Lord is throwing a banquet in his honor. It's strange though. What is? Naruto asked with a slightly raised brow. Well, Fire Lord Ozai never threw banquets for anyone else other than members of the royal family. So, seeing him throw one for Mai's dad is kinda strange. Naruto mentally agreed with the normally bubbly teen while the Kyuubi commented, if that's true, then this has to have something to do with my learning from you. Since she'll need to attend the banquet, Ozai will probably call her out on her studies and request a demonstration. And when she demonstrates, he'll see if what she learned will have any benefit to non-bender soldiers. He'll probably have her teach what she knows to them to increase his military strength. Exactly. The fox said before it grinned. However, what if you were to make a surprise appearance? Mentally raising a brow, Naruto queried, and what good will my appearance do for Mai? Think about it. With you there, you'll be able to keep her from backing herself into a corner by stating that she is not ready to teach, which you know is very true. Ozai is exactly like that old hawk Danzo from your time, using any means necessary to increase his militia. Using Mai, a 15-year-old girl, to pass on her hard-earned skills en masse is not beneath a man such as him. Naruto mentally nodded in agreement with the fox's arguments. That is true. I guess I'll need to get myself some formal wear as well as what I originally wanted. After cutting the mental connection, Naruto noticed that Ty Lee was staring at him with a smile and a small blush. Was there something you needed? Or did you just want to enjoy my thoughtful expression? He asked with a small smirk causing her to sputter in embarrassment. As he gave a small chuckle at her sputtering, Ty Lee asked, so, are you gonna go to the banquet? Mai's most likely going, Azula is definitely going since her father is, and I'm going just so that I won't be left with nothing to do. I haven't decided yet, he lied before he began heading into the city with Ty Lee in tow. I was never one for social gatherings, but I might go just so that I could support my student's family. Ty Lee seemed to brighten up at that before she grabbed his hand, slightly surprising the blonde, and began to drag him to a seamstress. Well then if you're going, we need to get you some nicer clothes. You can't go in that. And why exactly can't I? Ty Lee turned around and placed her hands on her hips while giving him a stern look. Naruto was vaguely reminded of a certain purple-wearing blonde giving him a similar look many millenniums ago. You can't go in that because it makes you look like you're about to go to war or something. Naruto just gave her a blank look at that, and Ty Lee looked confused by it before what she said, and who exactly he was dawned on her, and she gave him a sheepish look. Well, you know what I mean. Naruto shook his head exasperatedly before he complied. While he followed her, he silently made another clone and immediately dispelled it so that the clone with Mai would be updated on his whereabouts. With Mai. While the Nara descendant was going through the last part of her exercises, the Naruto clone received the memories of the other clone and sighed at its creator's dilemma. He didn't think that the original Naruto would be doing something as mundane as shopping for formal wear, but he wasn't going to argue about it. After all, it wasn't a bad idea to make a reasonable impression on the higher-ups of the capital city. He turned to Mai and saw her finishing up her final set of sit-ups before he stated, "That's enough for a while." Mai took a few deep breaths to help ease her lungs and asked, "Why are we finishing so early, sensei?" "The original me got dragged into shopping with Ty Lee for a banquet in your father's honor." Mai sighed at that and turned away from her teacher. She sat on the ground with her knees brought up to her chest. "So, you saw a flyer?" The clone raised a brow in confusion and felt her mood drop at her question. "Is there a problem with that? I thought you'd be happy for your father's success?" She shook her head and replied, "I am happy for him, really. I just don't see why he always wants to work so much. He's never home for too long, and when he is, he's still tired and busy. And with his new increase in influence, he'll be even busier." The clone sighed at the girl's statement. Since Naruto grew up an orphan and alone, he never really had to worry so much about how much a family member worked or how long they were gone. He slowly made his way to the girl and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, and gave her a reassuring smile when she turned to him. "Well, this is your chance to talk to him, and spend time with him before he gets too busy again. And besides, the original me was planning on going as well, so you won't be alone at the banquet." Mai gave a small smile at the clone's words, and gave him a nod in thanks. When she stood up, she asked, "So, do you think you could take me to him and Ty Lee?" "I better save him before she gets too into shopping for him," she stated with a smirk. The clone shook his head with a smile and wordlessly gripped her shoulder again before the two disappeared in a swirl of wind and static. With Naruto and Ty Lee. Naruto sighed as Ty Lee brought him various articles of clothing to try on and mentally debated using his Sharingan to put her to sleep for a bit. However, his conscience kept him from doing so, and he was left with a bubbly teen in a clothing store. He was brought out of his inner misery by the arrival of his clone and Mai. The clone, seeing his job done, smirked before dispelling and leaving the original to his fate. Naruto's eye twitched at his clone's antics, and he grumbled about stupid smart-ass clones, making Mai snicker since she heard him. "I see that Ty Lee has kept you busy?" she asked rhetorically with a smirk. He sighed and retorted, "Yeah, she can really be a handful." He then stood up from his seat near the changing rooms and flagged down the owner/seamstress of the store. Mai couldn't hear them, but she was able to see that the woman was slightly surprised by her teacher's request. Still, she nodded with a smile which Naruto returned and headed to the back, most likely to get started on the custom order. "What did you ask her to make you?" Ty Lee asked when he regrouped with them. "Now that would be telling, Ty Lee," he replied with a grin making her pout. "Come on, I still need to continue Mai's training for the day." "You're welcome to watch if you want to, Ty Lee." As he led them back to the forest clearing, Naruto sent another clone to make the order he had originally planned on making at the smithy. For the rest of the week, Naruto had Mai go through routine exercises, and had her practice with her basic jutsu and skills as much as possible. He wanted her to be able to perform the skills and actions necessary in a moment's notice, so he had her spar with a clone that used nothing but restrained taijutsu. At first, Mai held her own with many hits received against her. However, as the week progressed, she began to time her jutsu better and dodge more. She still received a couple of hits, but she was progressing steadily. After the week passed, it was finally the day of the banquet. It was to be held in a lavish dining hall that was easily the size of a large two-story home. Mai was there early with her family and had to miss training for the day. She was dressed in a black kimono with a crimson trim, and had a seamstress, so the Nara clan symbol on the back of it. Her hair was styled the same as her kunoichi wear, and she wore a black choker with a silver pendant on it. The pendant had a yin-yang design on it. It was about an hour and a few guests arriving later before Ty Lee arrived with her parents. The teen was dressed in a red kimono with a dark pink trim on it, while her hair was in its constant braided ponytail. She spotted Mai and immediately went up to her. "Hey, sorry we were late, but my mother took a while to get ready. Plus, my sister's helping her slowed us down as well." Mai nodded in understanding. It wasn't that much of a surprise that Ty Lee's 5 other sisters wanted to help their mother. She was still surprised that the woman was able to tell the sextuplets apart from one another. Ty Lee looked around and commented, "Naruto's not here yet. I wonder what's taking him so long." Mai looked around as well, and her mood fell slightly when she didn't see the blonde. "Sensei doesn't have to come. My father's success doesn't concern him, so it's okay," she said, though Ty Lee caught the slightly sullen tone of her voice. The girl tried to come up with a way to cheer her up, but she was interrupted by the arrival of Ozai and Azula. Everyone was informed of the arrival of the Fire Lord, since he never left the palace without a 4-guard escort. While he greeted people, Azula made her way to her friends. "Hello girls. I'm sure you must be happy about your father's newest success, Mai?" greeted the princess casually. Mai gave a small nod while she watched her father bow deeply to Ozai and offer his gratitude to the Fire Lord for the promotion. Suddenly, many gasps were heard and the music played by a hired band stopped as a certain blonde stepped into the hall. He wore a dark orange kimono with a black trim, a black vest with the Uzumaki symbol on the back, and wore the Yuzu medallion on a silver chain around his neck. His hair was still the same, but he still looked incredibly presentable and regal if the blushing faces of many women in the room were anything to go by. "Is that Naruto?" asked a shocked Ty Lee, who had a large blush on her face. Azula stared in shock as well, since he emitted an aura of authority as he stepped into the hall. Mai gazed at her sensei with a small blush and a slightly agape mouth. She had to admit that Naruto looked incredibly handsome, plus seeing him here greatly brought up her mood. He actually came, she thought with a small smile. Naruto stepped through the crowd and approached the surprised father of his student. Bowing low, he greeted, "Nara-san, it is my honor to be here to congratulate you on your newest promotion. I'm sure you'll do the Fire Nation and its people proud with your diligence." The man slowly shook himself out of his shock and bowed back to him. "Lord Naruto, I thank you for gracing us with your presence, and I thank you for your kind words." As they both stood up straight from their bows, the man continued, "I also wish to thank you for teaching my daughter how to better defend herself. I admit that I was skeptical at first, but I have seen that your teachings have done her well." Mai's mother stepped forward and bowed as well. "I also wish to express my gratitude, Lord Naruto. Mai has never shown much interest in anything, but I see that she is putting her all into your teachings. Thank you for teaching her, Lord Naruto." Naruto gave the woman a small smile and replied, "It is my pleasure to teach her. Mai is an incredible student and has learned a great deal already. You both should be proud." Ozai internally smirked at this opportunity and stepped forward. "Yes, I have heard many things concerning your student Lord Naruto. Perhaps she could give us a demonstration of her skills sometime?" Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly before asking, "What exactly did you have in mind for this demonstration, Ozai?" The Fire Lord hid his annoyance at the obvious lack of respect and offered, "I propose that at the end of this year, you have your student go up against a small group of my firebenders. Seeing as how she is taught by you, whose skills are legendary, she should not have too much problems doing so." He then gave a small, challenging smirk and continued, "And besides, weren't the people of your time used to going up against forces that outnumbered your own on a daily basis?" Naruto silently stood in thought before he turned to his student, who was watching in slight worry. He had planned for Mai to get some combat experience, but not against actual firebenders of Ozai. He silently beckoned her over and she complied, standing next to her sensei in front of the Fire Lord. Your request will only be accepted if my student chooses to do so. I cannot speak for her, Ozai, it is her decision. When her sensei turned to her, waiting for her answer, she took a calming breath and stated, I believe that I could accept the request made by Lord Ozai, sensei. Naruto sent her a slightly worried glance before he nodded slowly. Very well. My student shall demonstrate her skills against your firebenders at the end of this year, Ozai. Ozai gave a smug grin and replied, excellent. I will make sure to have my soldiers prepare for the upcoming event. In the meantime, let us resume the banquet. With that last statement, the band resumed playing and the guests went back to their socializing. However, the main topic for discussion was the demonstration of the student of the Hero of the Flame at the end of the year. Many guests were discussing how they thought she would do, and if she'd even survive against her fire-bending opponents. Mai was growing more and more nervous as she heard the murmurs, but Naruto calmed her by placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. When she turned to him, he gave her a small smile and stated, don't let what people say get to you. All you need to worry about is making sure that your training goes well. But training can wait since this night is for your father's success. Just enjoy yourself tonight and we'll resume training tomorrow. When she nodded in both understanding and thanks, he let go of her shoulder and made his way to the gardens outside. Tonight was a full moon and the ethereal glow of the lunar sphere always mesmerized him. Mai watched her teacher head outside and was about to follow him before she was asked to dance. Internally scowling at being kept from talking to Naruto, she politely accepted the offer. She had to present herself as a perfect daughter tonight since it was her father's night. Out in the gardens, Naruto sat on a stone bench and gazed at the moon, letting the light bathe him in its luminous glow. I still can't believe that the Jubi's entire body was sealed into the moon by the Rikudo Sannin. Does that mean that the one Obito tried to form would have been nothing more than a copy? No. It would have been an entirely new Jubi. You forget that the other Bijou came from the Jubi's Yuki, so if Obito had succeeded in his plans, he would have birthed a new Jubi. Is there another way to make the Jubi, Kurama? The fox dragged Naruto into the mindscape and narrowed its eyes at the blonde. Why are you asking about things like that all of a sudden? You had better not be thinking of reforming the Jubi. Of course, I'm not thinking of that. I would never recreate the very thing that Obito killed my friends for. Naruto retorted while glaring at the fox. I just need to know so that I can try to prevent it. If you know of any way that the Jubi could come back, I need to know now. The fox sighed in both relief and slight exhaustion before giving its host a blank stare. There is another way. In fact, I believe that the avatar was made so that they could stop this other method. What is it? The avatar is supposed to maintain balance in the world. So is the other method complete chaos? Close. The final method to restore the Jubi needs 3 things. First, negative energy must fill the world with its influence, and the closest way to do that is a world-scale war. Naruto finished. So, Obito was actually closer than he thought at restoring the Jubi, huh? Yes, he was. In fact, that damned Uchiha was so close that I had extreme doubts that we'd be able to stop him in time. Anyway, the second thing needed is a container to hold that negativity. It can range from the Geto Mazo to an empty shell of a human. The size won't matter since the container will change into the form needed. And the final thing? Naruto asked hesitantly. The final thing needed is a massive influx of Yuki that has the essences of the other Bijou. Naruto gave a small sigh in relief and asked, so we don't have to worry, right? The fox remained silent at the question. Kurama. Do we have need to worry? The Kyuubi sighed once more and gazed at its host in all seriousness. Bijou don't die, Naruto. When we are killed, we merely return to the spiritual realm in the form of energy used to stabilize it. However, while our energy stabilizes the realm, it can also be harvested and used for other means. Naruto's eyes widened in shock and fear at the Kyuubi's statement. So, you're telling me that the inhabitants of the spiritual realm have had about 5,000 years to harvest the Yuki of the other 8 Bijou? Yes, that is exactly what I am telling you, Kit. Naruto lost the strength in his legs and plopped down onto a piece of rubble in shock. The world can't handle the return of the Jubi. It will destroy the world long before anyone has the chance to stop it. There is a bright side to this, Kit. When its host turned his gaze to the fox, Kurama continued, the new host for the Jubi lacks my Yuki to fully stabilize it and make it whole. We have time to find the host and destroy it before the Jubi is reformed. But we have no means to enter the spiritual realm. That means that we need to find the current avatar and prepare them for what's to come. If they cannot defeat the host, then we need to have them make the host go from the spiritual realm to the physical realm. Naruto sighed at that before he gave a hollow chuckle. Figures. I leave our time because I felt that there was no need for Jinchuriki, and to escape the duties I accepted as the child of prophecy, only to find that the time we arrived to needs our help the most. Life sure is strange, isn't it, Kurama? The Kyuubi chuckled as well and replied, indeed it is, Kit. Suddenly, Naruto felt someone trying to contact him from outside of his mind, and he nodded to the fox before leaving the mindscape. When his eyes opened, he saw Mai sitting next to him and gazing at the full moon. You left me to deal with a bunch of troublesome people, sensei. Naruto gave a small chuckle and questioned, and what exactly made these people troublesome? They all wanted to dance with me just so that they could ask how to get on my father's good side. They see me as a connection to him so that they could move up in the world. She then sighed and continued, they didn't even talk to me like I was my own person. Naruto shook his head at the selfishness of ambitious people, and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. For what it's worth, Mai, I see you as a strong, intelligent, and beautiful young woman that has the potential to become someone greatly respected and admired one day. I see you as my Nara, my apprentice and my friend. Mai turned to him in surprise and saw him give her a warm smile. It warmed her heart that he actually saw her as a person, and in her mind, she made a mental promise to show that what he thought of her would be proven true one day. Thank you, Naruto. Naruto kept his smile while he returned his gaze to the moon. Don't mention it, Mai. From the inside, the two heard the band play a slow song that was perfect to dance to. Naruto's smile turned into a small grin as he stood up and offered a hand to his student. May a teacher have the honor of dancing with his student? He asked in a slightly joking tone. Mai smiled to him while taking his offered hand. Of course, he may, she stated in the same tone. The blonde led her to an open area of the gardens, and took her left hand in his right while placing his left at her waist. She grabbed his right hand while placing her right hand on his left shoulder before the two began to slowly move to the rhythm of the music. They stepped with the beat, he spun her a few times, and he twirled her one time. Unknown to Mai, Tai Li was watching them through one of the windows with a smile on her face. Naruto noticed her but paid the bubbly teen no mind. After dancing for about 10 minutes, they finally slowed their steps to a halt before Naruto pulled away from her and gave the teen a formal bow. I thank you for the honor of dancing with you, Lady Mai, he said with a small grin showing her that he was merely teasing her. Mai smiled back to him and played along with him. I'm pleased that you enjoyed yourself, Lord Naruto. Naruto then gave her a slightly serious look and said, tomorrow, we're going to step up your training a bit. We need to prepare you for your demonstration at the end of the year. At her nod, he finished, for now, just enjoy the time you have with your father. I'll see you tomorrow. The blonde then dissolved into a flock of ravens that disappeared into the night, leaving Mai alone in the gardens with the moon shining down on her. The next day. True to his word, Naruto had begun Mai's second year of training by increasing her weights and having her perform her exercises to get used to them. It took most of the morning before Mai was able to move at a decent level with the newly added weight. He then had her spar with a clone and she performed adequately. However, she was still letting herself get hit too much for Naruto's liking. Even with his clone lowering its speed to low Chunin level, Mai still had trouble holding it off. He hoped that she would see her mistakes and learn from them before they moved on to her archery training. 3 months later, second segment of training. It was the beginning of archery for the student of the last Uzumaki. She had just finished her morning exercises and stood next to her teacher, who had his own bow and quiver of arrows. Away from them were 3 targets at distances of 10, 25, and 35 yards. The targets had 3 colors, a red outer ring, a black inner ring, and a yellow circle in the center indicating the bull's eye. So, I'm assuming the goal is to hit the bull's eye? She asked him, and he surprisingly shook his head negatively. No, the goal right now is for you to at least hit the target set at 25 yards. Getting bull's eyes will come later when you've gained more experience. He then pulled out an arrow from his quiver with his right hand and held the bow firmly in his left. Now, archery is about finesse, not strength. You need to be calm and focused, or else your shots will be wild and may hit your allies. She nodded and watched as her teacher readied his arrow on the nock of the bow. He then grabbed the end with his pointer and middle fingers and used the butt of the arrow to pull back the string with the help of his ring finger. He pulled back slowly while his eye never left his target. During the draw of the string, she heard him take a deep breath in and heard him release the breath at the same time he released the arrow. The projectile flew through the air and hit the dead center of the target at 25 yards. You saw what I was doing the whole time, right? At her nod he asked, what was I doing? You kept calm and your breathing was even throughout the shot. You also held your breath on the draw and released it when you fired the arrow. Very good. Now, I want you to try and get as close to the center of the 10-yard target. Take your time and be sure to stay calm. Mai nodded and grabbed an arrow from the quiver. She then placed it on the nock and grabbed the end with her pointer and middle fingers. Using the bottom of the arrow, she pulled back the string with the help of her ring finger. She pulled back slowly while trying to maintain eye contact with her target. She took a deep breath in as she pulled and held it in while steadying the bow and arrow. As she released the breath and watched as her arrow hit the middle of the red ring. She gave a small scowl in annoyance while Naruto commented, "That was good. Much better than I had originally thought you'd do. You're off to a good start, Mai. You just need to practice more." She nodded and readied another arrow to fire. This kept up for the rest of the day, with her getting slightly closer to the black ring, but still remaining in the red ring. She kept up at it for 3 months, with Naruto giving her pointers whenever he saw her struggling. By the end of the first month, she was able to get the bullseye for the 10-yard target 2 out of 5 times. The second month had her take a shot at the 25-yard target whenever she hit a bullseye for the 10-yard one. Just like the first target, she started out slow with the second target, and at the end of the second month, she was only able to get a 25-yard bullseye 1 out of 5 times. During the third month, Mai had progressed to the point of hitting a 10-yard bullseye 4 out of 5 times and focused on the 25 and 35-yard targets. It was a slow and steady progress with some frustration for Mai at the difficulty, but she pulled through the month decently. At 25 yards, she was able to score a bullseye 3 out of 5 times, while scoring 2 out of 5 bullseyes for the 35-yard target. Third segment of training. Naruto had shifted the schedule for Mai for the next 3 months of her training. Since he was not a Nara, and did not learn how to perform the shadow-based techniques, he allowed Mai to go about it on her own, with him giving her insight based on his experiences working with Shikamaru in the past. She still performed her morning exercises and trained in archery for an hour a day, but the remainder of the day was focused on the Nara scrolls. The Nara clan used their techniques in accordance with both their shadows and the shadows of their opponents and surroundings. The shadows could hold a person still, strangle them, stab into them, or even be used like tentacles to grab objects. What interested Mai was the fact that the jutsu only used a single hand seal, but the level of difficulty increased the level of concentration needed. The hand seal was the rat seal, which had the user wrap their hand around the middle and pointer fingers of their right hand held in a half-ram seal. The techniques on the scroll were Kage Main, Shadow Imitation, Kage Kobishibari, Shadow Strangle, Kage Nui, Shadow Stitching, and Kageyos, Shadow Gathering. Seeing as almost all of the jutsu needed a human target, Naruto made a clone for Mai to practice on. The first month was focused on the Kage main and the Kage Kobishibari. For the first 2 weeks of the month, Mai trained in extending her shadow and attaching it to the clone's shadow. It came easier than she thought it would to her since the shadow moved across the ground to her will. The last 2 weeks were harder for her since she was practicing moving her shadow from the ground to wrapping around another person. At first, it took all of her concentration to have the shadow merely wrap around the ankles of the clone her teacher made. Though as the weeks progressed, she was able to steadily decrease the amount of concentration needed until it took all of her concentration to completely wrap her shadow to about the upper torso of the clone. It was incredibly draining on her, but Naruto explained that it was much harder wrapping a chakra-based technique against someone with chakra, let alone around someone with higher reserves than hers. The second month was focused on the Kage Nui technique. It took the Kage main a step further by having her shadow split into many different parts and become solid enough to stab into her target to hold them into place. For the first half of the month, Mai focused on having her shadow stay whole as she stabbed into a Naruto clone. Like the Kage Kobishibari, it was incredibly difficult for her to make her shadow change from a silhouette to a physical form. At the end of 2 weeks, she was able to make it rise and attempt a single stab, before she lost focus, and had her shadow drop back into the ground. Seeing her have this much trouble with it, Naruto had Mai hold off on learning the Kageos and spend the remaining month and a half focusing on the first 3 techniques. She easily saw the logic in the suggestion and complied. With her remaining time focused on those 3 techniques, she was able to bring them up to the level of a low Chunin Nara member. The final segment of her training was once again focused on an overview of what she already knew. Naruto wanted her to get experience on simple missions, but he felt that bringing her skills up to at least mid-Chunin level was the smarter choice for Mai since she'd be going up against experienced firebenders. The first month focused on her fighting tactics, the basic 3 jutsu, and physical training. The second month focused on her archery, bringing up to the point that she increased her bullseye count by 1 on each target. The last month was spent on increasing her Nara techniques to mid-Chunin capability. The year was up for Mai and now she was to show the fruits of her labor. Outer arena of Royal Palace. Mai stood next to her sensei, prepped and ready in her kunoichi gear, while her sense stood next to her in something new to his attire. Over his clothes, Naruto had on black armor with a rust-orange trim that was reminiscent of the ones worn by the samurai. The armor was constructed from numerous metal plates that were formed into multiple protective guards along his body. In particular, the armor focused on the chest, waist, shoulders and thighs, but left his back entirely exposed. 1. Over the armor was his Gamma Sennin cloak, while his Yuzo Hayate hung around his neck. Ozai stepped forward from his seat to address the crowd waiting for the demonstration to commence. People of the Fire Nation capital, it is my privilege to present to you all this demonstration of the student of Naruto Uzumaki against a group of 5 firebenders under my command. I hope you all enjoy what she has to offer you today. The crowd cheered in excitement as he returned to his seat. Naruto leaned his head to Mai's ear and whispered, "Don't worry, you'll do just fine. You faster, craftier, and have many abilities that they can only dream of. Just do your best, Mai. I have faith in you." Mai gave her teacher a confident smile and nodded before she turned to face her opponents. Naruto took a couple steps back and resolved to step in if he saw that his student was overwhelmed. The 6 combatants each got into ready stances and awaited the signal to begin. Ozai turned to the person that was to ring the gong and nodded. The servant nodded back and hit the gong with all his might, initiating the start of the battle. As soon as the gong rang, 2 of the firebenders punched forward and released streams of fire at Mai, who pumped chakra into her feet and disappeared in a small burst of speed. When she reappeared, she released a volley of shuriken at her opponents, who all rolled out of the way. Mai then flew through hand seals and formed 4 basic bunshin around her, surprising the audience. She then had her clones head for separate targets while she readied a kunai and ran for her own target. Like she predicted, the soldiers panicked and blasted fire at the clones, making them fade out of existence when the fire passed through them. The real Mai dodged the fireball sent her way, and continued rushing her target. As he readied another bending strike, she once again disappeared from his view. The next thing he knew was a blow to the back of his head before he fell unconscious with my standing behind his prone form. The remaining firebenders all shot flames at Mai and they hit home, shocking the spectators. Naruto smirked at that, and it grew at the sound of many people gasping in shock at the sight of a completely burnt rock where Mai was. While the firebenders stared at the scene in confusion, Mai pulled out some smoke bombs and threw them from her position behind another large rock. When the bombs detonated, the smoke blocked the vision from them and from the spectators while Mai faded from view in it. The benders slowly tried to make their way out of the smoke, but it was too thick to see through. After a couple of minutes, the smoke cleared and showed Mai and a firebender standing over two more knocked-out soldiers while the remaining two stood next to one another. Unknown to them, the Mai they saw was another Bunshin that faded away, while the real Mai had used Henge to transform into the firebender. "Damn it, where'd she go?" asked one of the real benders. "I don't know." "Hey, did you see where she went?" the second one asked his fellow bender. "Yeah, I did," Mai replied in a male voice due to the Henge. "Then where is she?" asked the first. Mai simply crouched down with her hands in the rat seal as her shadow stretched towards them and split into two streaks before latching onto their own, freezing them into place. She then released the Henge in a small plume of smoke and answered, "She's right in front of you." The two soldiers tried to move, but their bodies were too frozen to do so. Mai smirked at that and took out two kunai. The soldiers' bodies made the same motion, but since they did not have weapon pouches, they merely grasped at air. The Nara then threw her kunai at them, but made sure that the ring-handled end would hit them. Once again, the jutsu forced the two soldiers to perform the same actions, but they threw nothing while the kunai smacked into their helmeted heads. When they hit, a loud ringing sound echoed through the helmet and disoriented them enough for Mai to know them both out with chops to the back of their necks. As soon as the bodies fell to the floor, the arena was filled with silence until the sound of one man clapping broke through it. Naruto was the one doing so since he was incredibly proud of his student for her performance. She had used good battle tactics, showed her prowess in the basic jutsu, as well as the Nara clan jutsu, and she came out unscathed. Yes. I believe that she will most certainly go far in her life. The Kyuubi chuckled inside the mindscape and commented, "Yes, I think so too." Once the spectators broke out of their shock, they began clapping and cheering for Mai and her impressive performance. The ones who cheered loudest were Ty Lee and Mai's parents. Naruto appeared next to his student in a shunshin and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "See? I knew you'd do well, Mai." Mai gave a small smile at the cheering and her teacher's words and took it all in proudly. She had accomplished something today, and was slowly proving that Naruto's faith in her was not misplaced. In his seat, Ozai smirked at the display from Mai and already had some plans for the team forming in his mind. With an army of people like her, the Fire Nation will easily win the war. I have to find some way to make her teach what she knows to my soldiers. Either that or I find a way to have her beloved teacher do so. The only question that remains is how. Naruto tensed at the feeling of foreboding and turned his gaze to Ozai. His eyes narrowed at the man, and he mentally promised to keep Mai out of Ozai's clutches. And if Ozai tried to force Mai into something, he'd put a stop to it, no matter what. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.